Good afternoon. My name is Tom. I come to you from the great state of Maine. Today's episode is part 2 of 12 of Throw Out Everything You Know About Deer Hunting. As ludicrous as that sounds. So what this is a 12-part series because there are 12 months of the year, and for a deer hunter like myself, I generally hunt 12 months a year. 11 of those months is spent getting ready for deer season, and 11 of those months is spent scouting. I started out in part 1 with finding your 2 square miles around your cabin or around your home, and only hunt 2 square miles in the state of Maine. And so that was in, actually it was December. I started with what I do the first 2 weeks of December. That's when I kick it into high gear, my scouting, in preparation for the following year's deer hunt. In part 1, I also talked about finding your 2 square miles and only hunting in 2 square miles and learning it like the back of your hand. So today in part 2, I'm going to expand on what you do with that 2 square miles once you found it. What I start doing with it in January, remember December I spend scouting. I scout as often as I can in December, and I gather as much information that I can. So in January, with my 2 square miles, I start making paths through it. I take a GPS and I cut a trail from one corner to the next corner, right down through the middle of it. It's not a trail for a four-wheeler, it's not a trail for a snowmobile. Some areas is wide like that because I get fortunate enough to find logging trails and stuff like that. Old skidder trails up in this area, and some of them skidder trails can be 30, 40 years old. You brush them out and they go for a long ways. So if you get fortunate to find that, that's all the better. Makes cutting trails a little easier. And what I mean by cutting trails, all that I do is limb trees. I'll limb a path here and there. You might hear a car once in a while in the background. I apologize for that. I'm putting part 2 together here at my base camp, which is close to a highway. So every once in a while you'll hear a car. But anyways, getting back to cutting trails. All that I do is limb out trees. You do it in the wintertime because you can see long ways. You can see, sometimes you can see between the trees, and it's a pretty straight path, minus a couple of limbs, and so you'll have a nice foot trail through your 2 square miles. In my 2 square miles right now, I have roughly 3 miles of hand-cut trails. I GPSed them, so that's how I know the distance. And they take me to different places faster. Depends on where the wind is blowing. I'll put my trails in so that I can always hunt with the wind in my nose, like they used to do in the old days. They didn't play with all them body scents and all that stuff, cover-up scents. They kept the wind in their nose, and that's the direction they hunt in. So by cutting these trails, you can do the same thing. You can get off trail, you don't need to stay on a trail, but it makes it that much easier to know what's going on in your 2 square miles. And then my main trail, I'll flag it with them reflector tacks that you hit them with a flashlight and they shine up for 200-300 yards, and that makes it easier to get back to the cabin after dark, because I always set in my stand or my tree stand until the last minute of dark. So it could take me as much as a half hour to get back to the cabin after dark. That's not that uncommon. And if you shoot a deer, now you're going to be an hour and a half getting back to the cabin. So, and the trails make it easier to get out a deer or a bear or whatever you've shot. In my 2 square miles, I am fortunate enough to have bears and deer in there, and I've taken both. So this is just part 2 of 12. It's about how to manage your 2 square miles. So I hope that is a little bit helpful to you. This will probably wrap up part 2 of 12. And then I will be back I got another one almost ready to go for upload, so I'll have that one back, and we'll get more into some of the tips and techniques that I use as a solo hunter out on 2 square miles in the state of Maine. So you have a great evening, and I will see you on the next video.